It's an important week in the allotmenting calendar. We are heading into National Allotment Week, and this year the focus is on biodiversity. When we talk about biodiversity, quite often what we'll do is we will look across our growing spaces or we will look up in the air at the really big things. And what we often forget to do is actually to look down. Now, our soil is our most important growing medium because if we don't have good soil with good nutrition in there and a variety of different things, then actually our plants will not be very successful. So there's a few things that we need to be looking out for, which sort of grow bigger and bigger because actually biodiversity is a whole chain of different elements put together which help to support us when we are growing. So the first one is obviously our mycelium network, and our mycelium network is so important, and this is why no dig is actually a really good one, because as soon as you dig down you break that mycelium network, and if you expose light to that mycelium network again it is going to break down. Now your mycelium network is a whole series of little strands of white fibers that you can see, and it is actually a network. And in fact your mycelium network has more pathways in it than the human brain has in terms of our neuro pathways. So it is extremely important and something that we must be looking after. Now, also within our soil, if we are looking after it properly, we have a whole host of little tiny creatures which are also helping with that network as well. So the big one really we think of quite often are our worms. So if you have really good soil, you are going to have some really good worm action. And what those worms do is they actually eat any of the debris that is rotting in your growing area, and the worm castings or the worm poo is actually really good in terms of adding in those beneficial nutrients to our growing spaces. Now we might also have little things like our wood lice, and again our wood lice are there to eat away at any of that dying debris and foliage, and again that's keeping our soils and our ground really healthy as well. Now, snails and slugs have been a really big issue this year, and they have a really bad reputation, quite rightly so. However, there are about 200 different varieties of slugs in the UK, and they all do slightly different things. Now, obviously, what they really do is, again, they are getting rid of any of that horrible debris, which is just rotting vegetation, and is going to affect all of our plants. Love them or hate them, moles are actually brilliant to have. Now I will even forgive the fact that last year they completely undermined a whole row of my potatoes and completely wiped out that crop. But about 99% of what they do is spot on and absolutely brilliant. Obviously they will eat our snails and slugs, which is one good thing, but if they are in your growing area, it's because they have been attracted by the worms, and if you have worms in your soil, it's because you actually have really good soil. So this is in fact a good sign. Now what they are also doing by tunneling under is they are aerating that soil. They will bring up some good soil as well, which we can just lift and use ourselves, but also because they are aerating, they're going to be creating little pockets which will also help if you suffer from flooding, which many of us have done with all the heavy rain that we've had very early in the season. So moles are a good thing to have in your growing spaces, even if sometimes we don't quite appreciate them. So on National Allotment Weeks, when we're looking at biodiversity, absolutely we're looking at our pollinators, we are looking at our birds, we are looking at everything above the ground and in the sky, but also don't forget, we also need to be looking at the soil beneath us as well.